Good morning and welcome again to CEO Chat. My name is Alcini.
I'm still Joe Osamendi.
I knew you were going to say that.
There you go.
But our guest today is Laurel Cavalluzzo, and she's actually a returning guest and a good friend of RVN TV, and she has a magic act that she does. She does a wonderful magician's act, very important for business. We're going to start with a little demo of that, and that is, what is your elevator pitch?
Love that question because everyone should have an elevator pitch. I hope both of you have one as well. What I do is I work with businesses, make sure that I understand what their goals and objectives are, and then match up marketing tactics to help the business achieve their goals.
Oh, that's great. Now I'm looking at your lower third, so we're seeing your name. You're marketing director at Empirical Consulting Solutions.
That's right.
We know that company very well. We've interviewed Bill Morrow, and we've talked to you once or twice. Hillary Norris, I think we interviewed her.
She was on, yes.
Great team. So it sounds to me like ECS is building a team that can support a company with growth plans from the very early stages, which is their elevator pitch, all the way to the end, which is handling finances and operations.
That's correct.
Does that sound right? That's
That
great.
is correct. And it's really business transformation. That's one of the taglines that we're trying to include because it's not just little changes. It's really taking a business and peeling back each layer, seeing what's working and importantly what isn't working, and then helping come up with the solutions across many different functional areas.
That is.
You can't just look at one function. Everything is tied together, and you really need to take each apart, examine them, and then that will help drive business results.
And each team member is a specialist, is that correct?
Yes, so we cover marketing, of course, sales, finance, operations, HR, even culture and leadership. All of those areas are incredibly important.
Okay, so let's start with the question that you told me you were recently asked. And I think I know the answer, but I know you know the answer. What is the difference between marketing and sales?
Well, let's the three of us powwow about this a little bit because I think it's really important. It starts with marketing. Marketing is the awareness of a company, of a product, of a service, of basically how a company can change somebody's lives for the better, right? And it's making somebody aware of that. And then the sales side is actually what's closing the deal, is making the business transaction happen. Does that make sense? Is that something?
It makes perfect sense.
And I think, yeah, so it's something where there's subtle differences between the two, but they're tied together.
Well, sushi is cold, wet, dead fish, after all.
Yes.
But you don't necessarily want to explain it that way when somebody asks you what you serve in your restaurant.
Right.
Excellent analogy. I love that. It's all in the messaging. It's all in the positioning, and it's all about finding the need or gap or pain point that somebody has, and then figuring out what you can do to show that you can help solve that or close that gap.
And that magic act that you performed in, because it is
That's
magic,
right.
and I think it's wonderful. And anybody out there who's watching really needs, and we'll explain to them later how they can call you to get engaged with you and the other members of your team. That magic act really is about helping people overcome their biases. Everybody thinks they know why the market wants what they do, but often they're not really projecting very effectively into what the market actually wants.
That's true. We all get caught up in what we're doing day to day. We all think, we see internally what we're doing. We think we know what clients want and need. Until you ask them, you really don't know. And another thing I'll throw in there as well is one of my favorite authors is Dan Ariely. He has a book called Predictably Irrational, and people are irrational but predictably so. So if you can get some insights into what's going on with a consumer or with your prospective buyer, you can really start to understand what you can do to help overcome their objectives and predict what it is that they're going to like or not like or react to.
Okay, great. So now here's where we get to ask you the interesting question. The magic that you do is all of a sudden I go from having something that I'm comfortable saying to having something that actually changes somebody else's impressions and what they know about me.
Yes.
In between that, there are steps, part of what we don't normally see behind the scenes, how you do that trick. Where do you start? If you're talking to me, where do you begin that conversation?
Well, great questions and a very interesting process because I can't just wave my magic wand and make it all happen. As much as I'd love to, it doesn't really work that way. What I need to do is talk with a company and find out their values, their background, their history, and then really understand their product or service and know the nuts and bolts of everything that they do that, again, can improve somebody's lives or a company's lives. Research really needs to take place as well, both with current clients, sometimes with past clients, finding out where the need was not met or the gap was left gaping open. As well in the industry and in the competitive landscape, understanding who else is in that field doing something similar. And when you're talking about marketing a company, one of the most important things you need to do is make your own product or service unique and different. You've got to have a different spin, a different take, a different message. So if you don't know what's going on in the competitive landscape, you can't accomplish all of that.
And part of what you do is a research into what your competition is doing.
Yes.
So it's not just about saying something flowery and pretty. It's about knowing what everybody else is saying. Other people are making the same promise into the marketplace that you are. What inclines people to believe that you're going to keep your promise versus the promises they're making.
And that's great. That's exactly what it's all about. Is coming
And
up
that's
with
where
something
you,
along
well,
those lines.
that's real value. Now, okay, we've got people out there who are watching, and it's, it still sounds like magic to them. A startup company definitely needs you because until you can establish a foothold in a marketplace, you need to have some kind of a story that you can tell that is compelling.
Yes.
You help with that.
I do, and actually this is where ECS then comes in as well, because with a startup, you really need to have a business plan. So I've had a number of people who will come to me and say, here's this great product, a great service, brand new, I'm ready to start marketing it. Well, no, we've got to step back and you've got to have a business roadmap. So until a business has that in place, you really can't start marketing effectively. Now, marketing does become part of the business plan, but again, things like pricing, how things are going to be manufactured, if you're actually manufacturing it, what quantities you want to have, how big your team should be, operationally how you should be structured, all of that really needs to be established before marketing can then work its magic.
Yeah, okay, that's why it's important to be part of a team. We kind of imagined before the program it's a little bit like a Mission Impossible thing where you've got a whole bunch of photographs of people with different skills. You can pull a team together based on a problem that a client might have that they need to solve right away. But I want to make the point, it's not only about establishing a market for a growing or for a new company, but there could be companies that have been in business for 30 or 40 years. Business is a moving target. The clients that you could count on 20 years ago are not necessarily still the demographic you're approaching today. You also help with that.
We do, yes, and I do. Great point, though, as well, with the businesses that have been basically doing the same thing for decades. And you can't do that. Everything is changing. Technology is changing. Marketplace is changing. Consumer needs and desires, they're all changing very rapidly. And many businesses kind of just do the same old thing that they've always been doing without having a roadmap that's updated or even having a roadmap at all. So those, I really enjoy working with those companies because they know their business so well. They're not learning it from the ground up. They're already entrenched in it. And many times the ahas happen as they start to look at different, their business in different lights. And sometimes there's new revenue opportunities that come along. There's a lot, again, when we start doing research, talking with consumers, looking at the competitive landscape, that's when additional business opportunities come forth. And that's really can drive business growth.
So the engaging Laurel Cavalluzzo is in part a discovery process.
Yes.
Not just about Laurel picking my brain to learn what I'm trying to sell, but me understanding from Laurel's point of view some things I may not have considered before we started having this conversation that might actually make the difference between a win and a loss here.
Well said. And again, marketing is not just about pretty flowery messages like you were talking a few minutes ago, Al. It really has to be about data and analytics and information and taking all of the information that you can possibly find and then using that to make the best business decision. That's where, again, it helps to have an outsider come in. We all get so entrenched in our businesses. Having somebody with fresh eyes come in, take a look, again, examine the things that sometimes a business owner doesn't realize really should be examined. That's where new light is cast on a familiar situation.
Let's say a company you're talking about has done marketing forever. How receptive are they to new ideas on a whole?
That's a really good point. Sometimes there's a little bit of resistance. What I find a lot of times is when I go into a company, there might be a couple of people who are really set in their ways, but then there's some people who are like, things aren't working. They're not achieving their goals. And that's oftentimes an indicator. If there are sales goals, business goals that are not being met, marketing will be called upon to help fix the problem. Sales will as well, but marketing will be called upon to fix that. So what I find is the clients who see, hey, we've been trying some things, I'm really good at what I do within this industry, but in terms of marketing the company, I need some additional help and ideas, those folks can be very receptive. And a lot of times if there are a couple people who are within a company who are a little bit resistant, once that we have a discussion and they realize we're here to help, it's not a threatening type of situation, and they see it's actually going to be a very fun process. I mean, this is where the magic comes in. There's actually some fun with it as well. Then all of a sudden the attitudes change and we're all in it together.
What's the length of an engagement with your company?
I'm sorry, what's the length?
The length, yeah. For
Oh,
instance.
it's a great question as well. It could be a month or two if there's a small business project, but many of my clients I've worked with for years. Now, I will say that a big part of what I do is training internal people to learn how to take over some of the marketing responsibilities themselves. That's important as well. People don't want to be relying on an outside consultant forever, and they want to understand what it is that they need to do. So there's a mix of all different types of clients in between. Sometimes I'll work with a client for 6 months or a year, get them set up, but then as their business landscape changes, their business situation changes, they'll call me back in, I'll come in, we'll rework the roadmap, get them set up again, and then, again, I'll train their individuals and they'll be off and running again.
Train the trainer.
Exactly, I do a lot of that.
So if I'm a big company and I have a chief marketing officer, you could work with him or her, maybe to help them get a fresh look at what it is they're working on, maybe help them overcome some of the obstacles they're facing. If I'm a small company and can't afford a CMO, you can be a fractional CMO for me to help me get started for as long as I need you, for as much as I need you, maybe full-time in the beginning, but on a diminishing basis as things start to roll.
Absolutely, yes. So a lot of times too, and you kind of hit the nail on the head, and up front is where there's a lot more time that's needed, again, uncovering and doing the research that's required, and then developing what I call toolkits. So a lot of times there'll be a database toolkit, a social media toolkit, making sure the website is in place, getting that all in order. Once those toolkits are in place, they can then really be turned over to the internal staff if that's what they'd like. Sometimes clients are really lean and mean and they want to outsource everything, and that again with me working within ECS, a larger organization, we can make that happen. So very flexible. Clients have different needs. We want to help them find what's the best solution for them.
So you can customize a solution to the organization you're working with.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. I think I'm imagining all the different scenarios where that might be a great fit, and I know I work with a bunch of companies and I've seen them struggle with exactly the problem that you address, which is we have a system, we send out mailers. I don't know why I'm not growing. I send 30 emails a year. I make 300 telephone calls a month. But somehow things just don't seem to click. And just doing the same things over and over again, persistence doesn't always pay. Sometimes you need to change things up a little bit.
Yes, and you need to really analyze and look at the data that's available. So for example, with emails that are sent out, there's a lot of analytics on the back end that sometimes people take a look at or a cursory look at, but they don't look at it in detail and come up with a report. On the website, how many people actually look at their Google Analytics on a monthly basis and figure out how many visitors are coming, what pages they're at, and so forth? Not many do all that. So that's one of the things I'll do is come in and help measurements be put in place that then the internal team can keep track of going forward.
Oh, that's great. Now, we need to take a break. We've got so much to talk about, and another 12 minutes to squeeze in everything that you know.
All right, looking forward to it.
But right after these commercials, we'll come back with more CEO Chat with Laurel Cavalluzzo of Empirical Consulting Solutions. So what are you going to tell them?
Stick around.
I think that's great advice. We'll be right back. This is great.
But what does it take to strengthen our service members? What does it take to let them know that we stand behind them, wherever they are? What does it take to bridge the distance and keep them connected to family, home, and country? And what does it take to prepare them for their future when their service to the nation is complete? What does it take to strengthen our service members so they can be the greatest force for good in the world? It takes a force. Be a force behind the forces. Share a message today at force.uso.org.
I want to be a contender. I want a warm belly to sleep on.
A big house.
How do I look? Do I look good?
I want to play hard.
My nails done once a month.
I want.
I want.
I want a home.
I just want a home. I want someone to love.
Last year, more than 30,000 companion animals came to us without homes. 20,000 of them were felines. Let's make some homes together.
Choosing Medicare coverage can be a very confusing and complicated process. Help is just a phone call away. 856-226-4800. As a licensed insurance agent, I'll assist you in making an informed and confident decision on a Medicare plan that meets your needs, lifestyle, and budget. Call me today for a free, no obligation Medicare benefits consultation. 856-226-4800.
Boardwalks built for fun. Legendary rock and roll clubs.
This is how we do it.
Casinos by the ocean.
Hippity hop.
Now that's New Jersey. 130 miles of beautiful beaches. Solid rock. And everything in between.
Look in the window.
Now that's New Jersey.
Burlington County College.
Is now Rowan College of Burlington County.
Still the same great faculty.
At a community college ranked top 50 in the nation.
Basically, we earn more and pay less.
RCBC students are accepted at Rowan University after graduation.
And get a bachelor's degree for around $30,000.
Online and Mount Laurel students get a 15% Rowan University tuition discount.
And have many scholarship opportunities.
So you earn more and pay even less.
Rowan College of Burlington County.
Your path to success.
They are the greatest fighting force the world has ever seen. But what does it take to strengthen our service members? What does it take to let them know that we stand behind them, wherever they are? What does it take to bridge the distance and keep them connected to family, home, and country? And what does it take to prepare them for their future when their service to the nation is complete? What does it take to strengthen our service members?
Welcome back to CEO Chat. Who was I again?
You're Elsini.
Yeah, no. Son of a gun. Would you like an autograph? Joe Assamendi, what a pleasure. Nice to see you.
On a check.
But our guest is, oh yeah, definitely. On a check,
On a check,
definitely.
sure.
Our guest is Laurel Cavalluzzo. Laurel,
And I really am Laurel Cavalluzzo.
she actually is,
Yes.
and she can prove it.
Yeah.
Can prove it.
You know, we always try to think of a good, powerful way to come in to any segment because people are just getting to know you through this conversation. You mentioned you were a farm girl, and that immediately struck me because most people think that making sales is like hunting. You go and find your prey and you bag it and I mean, it's horrible, but the truth is it's farming. It's a combination of creativity and consistency. So, okay, farm girl, tell us how being a farm girl helps you do this.
And also patience, I will just add into that, and
that's
taking
great.
time and so forth. So yes, I grew up on a farm in central Virginia, Charlottesville, Virginia, where the University of Virginia is. I do not have a southern accent though, as you will notice. But what I learned is basically all hands on deck on a farm. Every family member is involved. We're taking care of the animals, we're taking care of the land. You know, the haying, that was a big job each year where we would cut the grass at the right time, pray that it wouldn't rain so that everything would dry, pray that the tractor and all the equipment would work, and that we would all go out there and take care of it. And then we'd have cattle hay and horse hay, depending on the quality and so forth.
Right.
But getting back to your point, growing up on a farm teaches an incredible work ethic. You have to work a very long day, 7 days a week. Not that I do that necessarily now, 24 hours a day, but you just learn these values and you learn to work together as a team, and you also learn crisis management because stuff happens, bad stuff happens, and you've got to learn to react to it. So that's one of the things I love about PR is, you know, sometimes the PR spin is great, but sometimes bad things happen.
Well, and so PR is another part of the solution that you provide. Reputation management, marketing, they all kind of work together, and that's something, having people develop the kind of steady hand with a creative lean is what really makes a difference, I think, in marketing and in reputation management.
It does, and sometimes people separate them out, but they're all tied together. I think this is a common theme we keep coming back to.
Right.
It's all tied together. And for example, if you look at PR separately from social media, separately from your database management and database marketing, you're not going to have a cohesive message or a good marketing solution. They all have to really be looked at and examined together in the strategy.
They've got to be aligned too.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
that's very
well
important.
said. Well said.
Okay, so I was recently talking to a colleague of mine who has, for years, for decades actually, has been selling pretty successfully a program that helps companies save money, become more productive, be more profitable. And his messaging is around this: try this because you'll be more profitable, you'll make more money. I mean, and he'd become used to that message working. And over a couple of decades, it worked fine. But for the last couple of years, it has just not worked. Right? It just hasn't. And he's frustrated by that because he wants to know why his message isn't working anymore. And I'm telling him more important than understanding why your message isn't working is to try different messages to see which one does.
Yes.
So farming up to a point, doing the same thing over and over again works, but it's every now and then you've got to take a look at what you're doing that's not working and change up.
You do. Isn't the definition of insanity doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result?
I think that's,
I love that.
In my family, it's the definition of insanity.
I think we can probably
Yes,
all
for
relate
sure.
to that. And
Absolutely.
we try to work through that. But yes, and that's what businesses need to do. When things are working wonderfully, super, but take a look and see what you can do better. But when things are just not working at all, that's where you have to step back, re-examine everything with a fresh set of eyes. Again, we all tend to get so close to our businesses that it's hard to be objective and look at things with fresh eyes because it's just something we see every day. So in the situation that you're talking about with your friend, has he stepped back to look at the competitive landscape, which I'm sure has changed dramatically over the years? I think what you're describing is something that more and more people are coming into because we're all sensitive to not working 24 hours a day like I used to on a farm and using time more efficiently and wiser. So everyone's looking to do that. So figuring out what's going on with the competitive landscape, figuring out what the clients see as the difference. So I'm sure he's been working with some different clients providing these services. He has his take on why they're there, but they're going to have a very different take. Every time I do research with consumers or clients, new ideas and new insights come forth. Things that my client has never heard or hasn't thought of before from his or her clients, like new nuggets of information. And it's the messaging. You've got to come up with messaging that's different. And that's why the research is so important.
Funny you should say that because after trying this over and over again, he finally got up the nerve to call a CEO that was on his list, and a nice lady, and they talked for a while, and she said, do you know how many times people call me or email me every day telling me they have a solution that's going to make me more money or save me money? And after a while, it just sort of falls into a kind of a vapor cloud where I can't tell the difference at all. If you want to differentiate yourself, you got to tell me something I haven't heard before. Otherwise, you're just like everybody else, and how do I separate you from the pack?
Yes.
That's the magic. That's what you help people with. And I know we've worked with you. One good thing about working with Laurel, Joe, is that she doesn't make you feel stupid. I mean, a lot of people will come in and they'll just say, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It never judges you, always supports what you're doing, steers you in a direction of discovering a good way to go. Doesn't make you feel bad because you suddenly discover you've been doing things wrong.
And that's important too, because somebody has to buy into what you're talking about and not resist. One of the things I think is should be addressed is patience, because people can't, you might come in with a great marketing plan for them, but they expect an instant turnover. Is that correct?
They do expect an instant return in some cases, but marketing, and again, it gets back to the difference between marketing and sales.
Right.
And marketing is cultivating a brand and a reputation, gets back to reputation management. So
Getting to be known for something.
Exactly, getting to be known as the expert in your industry or the go-to company in your industry. That takes time.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that when I'm working with clients, trying to set the expectations, give some good guidelines. You need 6 months to a year to really start to shift the reputation of a company, for example. PR is a wonderful communications channel, but it takes time to build relationship with reporters in the industry, with influencers in the industry, and so forth. So there's one client I've worked with, and it took a full solid year, but now that client is interviewed very regularly about her area of expertise, and that's the kind of thing. Patience and time can lead to great results.
And I know that's important. A lot of people want a magic bullet, quick hit. And,
magic wand.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And if that's what you're looking for, well, you're not going to find it no matter who you call. And anybody who offers it is really kind of deceiving you. I mean, the truth is you've got to start a process. You want to do that with somebody who's creative and consistent and has done it before. And that's you. And I know now you're part of a team. So working from the messaging all the way through to the execution of it, how do all the parts of ECS work for me?
It's a wonderful organization, and I will say that there's magic. When I first started to get to know the folks within ECS, I'm like, how this is amazing. It seems too good to be true. It really isn't. It is as good as it sounds. So this is where, as a team, again, as I was describing before, there's different functional experts. But what's interesting about this team is everybody on the team has a lot of extensive corporate experience. You know, for example, I worked at ExxonMobil for a decade, worked across, was a marketing director there, but worked across cross-functional areas and worked with everybody because marketing does touch every functional area. Same thing at ECS. We're talking about people who have operations and leadership and culture, finance, et cetera, backgrounds. So when we're working with a company and looking at a company, the whole team will brainstorm about, this is where they are right now in business, this is where they need to go, this is what we know about their current situation, and then we start to dive into, all right, where are the areas that need to be fixed and prioritize those? Because sometimes a company needs help operationally, sales, marketing, finance, et cetera. You can't necessarily hit all areas at once. So which is going to be the area to start with? That's a big determination.
People's budget has to be considered too.
Yeah, that's important too, and that's part of it. Okay, now we need to wrap up, and we could have gone on for another 2 days, but you've got you're a new member of a great team, a great deal of experience at ECS. If I want to put your team on the field for me, how do I reach you? Maybe you can look in your camera.
Absolutely. So thinkempirical.com is the website, and on Twitter, thinkempirical is also the handle, and we try to be very responsive, but the website has a lot of great case studies and testimonials and good information about the team.
Great, and their website was, you helped with their messaging, you helped with theirs, so I've looked at the website, it's terrific, nice work.
Thank you very much.
What a pleasure,
Thank you,
Laurel.
Al. Thank you, Joe. Great to see you guys again. Thank you.
And we'll have you back again next year for an update. It's great to talk to you as always, and thank all of you for joining us today on CEO Chat. My name is Al Cini.
I'm still Joe Asamendi.
And we'll be back again at 1 o'clock for a third CEO Chat today, a special program, so we hope you'll join us for that.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Thank you.